Welcome to the Kyle Olson Show. I wanted to kick things off by reading something the East Lansing Education Association, the teachers union, posted on Facebook. Here's their response to all those parents like me, probably like you, who have kids home from school and are wondering where exactly we're heading with the shutdowns. Quote, parents need to give up the fantasy that their kids making incredible academic progress this year is more important than people not dying. It went on, this is opportunity hoarding and a vision that your own kid deserves to excel academically right now more than others deserve to live, have housing, eat. It ended, it's immoral and ignores the fact that we live in a community with others. So how about that? If you're a taxpayer or a parent who thinks schools should be open, a position, by the way, that Dr. Anthony Fauci and the CDC director hold, you're immoral, and it's, quote, opportunity hoarding. I've never heard that term before. Controversy erupted in Georgia this week when Lynn Wood, one of the attorneys working to expose voter fraud, said this.
Do not be fooled twice. This is Georgia. We ain't dumb. We're not going to go vote on January 5th in another machine made by China. You're not going to fool Georgians again. If Kelly Loeffler wants your vote, if David Perdue wants your vote, they've got to earn it. They've got to demand publicly, repeatedly, consistently, Brian Kemp call a special session of the Georgia legislature, and if they do not do it, if Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue do not do it, they have not earned your vote. Don't you give it to them. Why would you go back and vote in another rigged election? For God's sakes, fix it. You gotta fix it before we'll do it again.
Joining me now to discuss the reaction to Wood's statement is Matt Boyle, Washington political editor of Breitbart News. So, Matt, what was the response to what Wood said at that rally?
Well, look, urging people like Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell have done in the president's name to not vote in the upcoming January 5th Senate runoffs where Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, the Republican incumbents, will face off against, respectively, the Democrats Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, is counterproductive to what the president stands for. It runs counter to what the president is telling people, his supporters, to do down in Georgia, and it would undermine all the progress that's been made over the course of the Trump administration by potentially installing a Democrat majority in the U.S. Senate. Look, here's the numbers are as such. Republicans will have at least 50 Republican senators in the U.S. Senate next year. Democrats will have at least 48. Depending on how these election challenges play out, and President Trump is still pursuing challenges, though he hasn't flipped any states yet, and it's unclear if he will. It looks like at this stage that Joe Biden, who currently leads in all of these states, is probably going to be the president of the United States next year. That means that Kamala Harris, his running mate, is going to be the vice president of the United States. If the Democrats take these two seats in Georgia, then the Senate will be 50-50, and Kamala Harris will be the tie-breaking vote in the United States Senate. That means Kamala Harris will become the most powerful woman in the world. So ultimately, and the Democrats would control the Senate floor, they'd control the Senate committees, so on and so forth, and they would ram through their radical agenda of court pact, making D.C. a state, eliminating filibuster, defunding the police, and every other socialist wet dream that people are very upset about across America. So the fact of the matter here is that there's a reason why President Trump is telling his supporters in Georgia to vote for Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, because he knows that a Republican majority in the U.S. Senate is the best firewall to protect the gains and successes that he's made as president. They'll be able to hamstring Biden and, again, serve as a firewall against Biden and Kamala Harris and their radical agenda. So the real question becomes, why is somebody or a couple of people out there telling people to do something different than what the president is telling them to do? So then we start looking into Lin Wood's political history. We would start looking at his voting history and his political donation history. So while he has started giving to Republicans and President Trump over the past couple of years, as recently as 2018, he was voting in Democrat primaries in Georgia. The last time he voted in a Republican primary was 2004. We don't know if he ever voted for President Trump because he didn't request primary ballots in either the 2016 or the 2020 elections, the 2 years President Trump was on the ballot, on either the Republican or the Democrat side. But we do know that when President Trump was president, he did request in 2018 in the midterm elections a Democrat primary ballot. So he was voting Democrat even when President Trump's been in office. He's funded Democrats in Georgia and nationally, including Barack Obama and John Edwards, two Democrat presidential candidates in 2004 and 2008. With political donations. He's also funded several Democrats in Georgia, including Democrat candidates for U.S. Senate in Georgia. So then you start wondering, okay, well, why is this guy out there telling people to not vote? Well, maybe it's not because he's got the interest of the president and his supporters in mind, but he's got a different agenda, one that he's made very clear with his political donations and voting history over the course of his life. So the ultimate thing here is, look, I respect Lin Wood's work on the First Amendment. He's done amazing work on libel cases dating back to Richard Jewell and Covington Catholic, Nick Sandmann. The stuff he did on those were incredible. But at the end of the day, though, the question here really becomes, what is in the best interest of the president's movement and the president's vision for this country, and staying home or sitting out the most important election that Georgians will face or have faced, maybe with the exception of the November 3rd election ever, is not the way forward for those people. If they support President Trump, they need to do what President Trump is telling them to do, and he's going there this weekend to support Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. Vice President Pence is there on Friday, so he's there today. It's his second trip there. The president's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., is cutting ads and planning to campaign there as well. So I think we should be listening to the president, not to people that purport to speak for the president but are actually donating to and voting for Democrats.
Right. Well, and the thing that was so bizarre to me about that statement was he was basically saying, if these two U.S. senators who don't have anything to do with the election management in the state of Georgia, if they aren't vocal enough about how the election is run, then you should not vote for them. And I thought to myself, so wait a minute. So these people who don't have anything to do with the elections, as you know, how they function, you should punish them and therefore effectively hand the majority of the U.S. Senate to the Democrats? That is insane to me.
Right. So not only that, but also in the case of Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, they have been vocally supporting the president's efforts on this front. Like, we've got statements. We've put them up on Breitbart. We've been covering this since Election Day. They've been two of the most vocal Republican senators in support of the president on all of this matter. In fact, also Congressman Doug Collins, who challenged Senator Loeffler in the November 3rd election, he's been very vocal too. So the idea that there isn't that they aren't supportive of the president is frankly a false flag. It's a misnomer, and it's a misrepresentation of their position, and it's a misrepresentation of the president's position on this. Whenever I see somebody out there claiming to speak for the president and his base, especially when they're offering a position that's different than what the president is putting forward and different than what the president's what's in the interest of the president's base and his supporters, it always kind of sends red flags up, and that's why we did our homework here and we looked into this a little bit deeper, and we uncovered all of this stuff. Again, Lin Wood has a really stellar reputation on a lot of these cases, and he deserves to be commended for that stuff. But the fact of the matter here is, And by the way, he should be pursuing the vote fraud stuff. Good for him on
Mm-hmm.
that, right? Like, so good. That's fantastic. But don't go and cannibalize the entire movement in everything that President Trump stands for because you're mad, because you're upset. Don't get mad. Get even. Get out there and vote. If you, Laura Ingraham, I think, actually had a really good argument on this on the opening of her show one of the nights this week, a few nights ago. She came out and said, if you want to, channel your energy here, if you're upset about this, then vote. Don't not vote.
Mm-hmm.
Actually go out there and vote, because that's how you can send a message. You want to send a message here that you stand with President Trump, then elect his allies, the people that he's campaigning with, to the U.S. Senate. So none of this makes any sense, except for when you start digging a little bit deeper, and you start seeing, oh, wait, it's the Democrats.
Matt Boyle, Washington political editor of Breitbart News. Thanks for joining me today.
Yep, anytime.
This is the Kyle Olson Show. We'll be right back.